Hello, it's Monday, August 7th, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO Headline News. So, we've been having lots of talk about the moon monikers. Oh, the sturgeon moon up there right now. The moon is getting a lot of, shall we say, spotlight these days. Just 2 weeks before the much-anticipated total eclipse of the sun, August 21st. The full moon will pass through the northern part of the Earth's dark umbral shadow, which will create a shallow eclipse of the moon, visible in Earth's eastern hemisphere. As with any lunar eclipse, the moon will sweep through the Earth's shadow from west to east, even as the moon travels across our sky from east to west. Any lunar eclipse can only happen at full moon when the moon is opposite or nearly opposite the sun in Earth's sky. That's the only time when it's possible for the moon to sail through the Earth's shadow. Of course, to watch this lunar eclipse, you have to be located on the right side of our world while that eclipse is taking place. Here's how it works. This eclipse will be visible during the evening hours after sunset tonight for most of Africa and Europe. However, far western Africa and far western Europe, such as the United Kingdom, Portugal, and Scandinavia, will not see the partial umbral eclipse. Nope, their moonrise comes after the event. As viewed from much of Europe and Western Africa, the moon will actually be in eclipse as it rises in the east at sunset, August 7th. In Eastern Asia, Indonesia, Australia, and New Zealand, the partial eclipse will occur in the morning hours before sunrise, August 8th. As for mid-Asia, that would be India and Western China, the eclipse will happen at late night or around midnight between August 7th and 8th. And Bruce McClure at earthsky.org, who wrote this article, also provides links to wonderful charts, very specific times for localities worldwide. Although most of the Earth's western hemisphere won't see this partial umbral lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse, may we have a drum roll please, is coming up one fortnight, that's 2 weeks later, will be visible from a very wide swath of the western hemisphere. In particular, the United States will enjoy a ringside seat, as the rather narrow path of totality, roughly 60 miles or 100 kilometers wide, will swing all the way across the continental United States from the United States west coast to the United States east coast during daylight hours, August 21st, 2017. Bottom line, you have to be on the nighttime side of the world, in this case, the Earth's eastern hemisphere, to witness the partial umbral eclipse of the August 2017 full moon, that's tonight and tomorrow night. The southern portion of the full moon will dip into the Earth's dark umbral shadow for nearly 2 hours, from 1723 to 1918 UTC, August 7th, 2017. And nope, gentle listeners, the Americas will not be in a position to see this event. But we're just betting you can find plenty of video online later. Since this is the UFO headline news here on Inception Radio Network, let's just jump into this wonderful article about UFOs written by Cheryl Costa, journalist and author, and she writes this for the New Syracuse Times. Here's her headline, UFOs and the Edge of Reality. She writes it in first person, so that's how we're going to read it. Since the release of my book, UFO Sightings Desk Reference, numerous media interviewers have asked me about the wide diversity of UFO appearances or shapes. I keep hearing the questions about why there are so many different shapes. I've had to keep my answers simple at the risk of overwhelming the interviewers with the topic of UFOs and that edge of reality. It boils down to this. Most people tend to think of UFOs as simply advanced spacecrafts, just nuts and bolts technology. If I mention an automobile, you'll probably get a mental image of some classic car with wheels, headlights, windows, and seats in the interior. If we reference an aircraft, most of us would visualize a long tube with wings and some sort of nacelles, jet, or piston for propulsion. But if we bring up the subject of off-world spacecrafts, most people would struggle to grasp an image. Their mental conception usually defaults to a saucer-shaped craft or something we've seen in a science fiction movie. At issue is the fact that off-world civilizations might be thousands or millions of years ahead of us. To quote Peter Mandeville, an administrator for a Facebook group called UFO Reality, quote, "Their technology would be incomprehensible," end quotes. The late Sir Arthur C. Clarke, British science fiction writer, science writer, and futurist, stated the problem quite clearly, quote, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic," end quotes. Previously, I suggested that contact with off-worlders seems to be in the realm of consciousness in my article about CE5 protocols. Several readers objected and said it was imperative that communication be measurable with some sort of apparatus. So, we are confronted with the classic two-horn dilemma of analysis. There are 2 points of view and interpretation: academic study, rational science; philosophical mysticism, non-rational consideration. If the true nature of UFOs teases us from beyond our conventional and rational comprehension, perhaps it's time to start really accepting that the truth is undefinable and must be examined by non-rational means. So, if you are expecting an easily identifiable off-world craft with instruments and propulsion that you can relate to, then perhaps the academic study is the right approach. On the other hand, what if this craft is sentient? What if it is able to think for itself and can communicate with you with some sort of telepathy phenomena? The science fiction television show Farscape featured such an organic sentient ship. What if the off-world occupants invite you to take a ride in their craft, and they let you sit in the left seat, the command chair? Then, by simply placing your hand on a shiny melon-sized ball sitting on a pedestal, you find that you can become one with the ship, and it goes where you will it to go. How can we rationally discuss this kind of technology? In a pre-paradigmatic world, rational science has been unable to define exactly what consciousness is, or how it integrates with a living being. Yet, philosophical mysticism can get you to a place where consciousness can be discussed without the dogmatic overtones that frequently bog down discussion of spirit and consciousness. When I lived in a Buddhist monastery, we called these non-rational discussions monastic debates. A monastic debate about quantum physics is a most interesting experience, I assure you. Since the late 1960s, modern science has, for the most part, washed its hands of the UFO phenomena. Why? Because, as a friend of mine in Australia likes to point out, academic scientists really need to have an off-world craft to take apart and examine, yet they don't have one, at least to the best of our public knowledge. Without an off-world craft to study, academic scientists don't want to risk the prestige, credibility, and funding that goes into big science. Add to that, trying to understand UFOs invariably leads down a rabbit hole and the dreaded path of non-rational philosophical mysticism. Perhaps it's time for the well-trained mystics to take a crack at the UFO problem. Fascinating concept. Much to ponder from Cheryl Costa. From upstate New York, it's not too far to Connecticut. So let's go to this headline: Spike in UFO sightings reported in Connecticut. Here's the subheadline: There have been 30 UFO sightings in Connecticut in 2017. 10 of those sightings were reported in July alone. Joe Lipovich gets the byline here for the patch. July was a big month for UFO sightings in the Nutmeg State, land of the steady habits. According to the National UFO Reporting Center, that's Newfork, there were 10 UFO sightings reported in Connecticut during the month of July, and that's reported, by the way, according to the organization that records UFO sightings nationwide. There's been a 50% spike in reports. 2 of the reported sightings, however, were discredited by local police. In Clinton, Connecticut, on July 2nd, the report of a green sphere with white dots was reported, but police confirmed the object to be lens flares. Interesting, this must be a reference to some sort of photographic evidence. As far as this broadcaster knows, lens flares cannot be seen with just the lens of one's eyes. And then on July 16th in Groton, what one person thought to be a row of 5 hook-shaped objects was later ruled by police to be skywriting aircraft. The writer says, now don't get us wrong. We're not saying there are or aren't UFOs. Here's an outtake from another sighting. Quote, flew extremely low overhead, end quotes, wrote the reporter of this sighting. Quote, silent craft, absolutely no noise. Single red-pink light on craft. Moved from east to west, passed over my dad's house and the neighbor's house across the street, while releasing 4 small red balls of light. Those balls of light turned and disappeared before they hit the ground. They looked like firework embers the way they died out, and the UFO disappeared behind the trees, end quotes. Another UFO was spotted in Manchester, Connecticut, where the witness saw an orange spherical light, a light that didn't move. Quote, just one bright orange light visible, not moving, not twinkling, very visible, could not have been a planet. Did not change direction for the couple of minutes I could see it. I tried to follow it while I was driving to assess what it could have been, but it disappeared at some point and was not seen again. Overall, sightings were reported in Meriden, Manchester, Plainville, Groton, South Windsor, Clinton, Stratford, Bridgeport, Middletown, and Clinton. This article is nicely put together. It adds this. In case you're wondering what the National UFO Reporting Center is, it's been around since 1974, and it investigates UFO sightings and has put together a list of more than 90,000 sightings from around the world. You can catch up and read more about each of those UFO sightings in Connecticut at a link you can find later at ufoheadlinenews.com. And by the way, this report dates back decades. Let's head from the New England state of Connecticut to Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where MUFON case number 85697 took place. It's a report dated from the 4th of August, 2017. It was reported August 6th. Here's the summary. While standing on my deck, I noticed a very bright cylinder-like object, fast, not conventional aircraft, had cell phone, took pictures. Well, there is a shot. You can find it later. Just the click of a link at ufoheadlinenews.com. In the category of sighting specifics, the viewing distance listed by the witness here is unknown. The altitude over 500 feet underneath cloud cover, and later over 500 feet without that cloud cover. The sighting duration was 10 minutes. Object features unknown. Object flight path, straight line path, and this object is reported to have been shaped like a cylinder. The weather in Woodbridge, Virginia went something like this. Maximum temperature 89 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 degrees Celsius. Minimum temperature 73 degrees Fahrenheit, 23 degrees Celsius. The visibility factors, maximum, mean, and minimum, they were all the same, 10 miles, 16 kilometers. And at the time of this event, it was raining. Here's how it went. While standing on my deck, I noticed an extremely bright cylinder-like object moving very fast in the sky, much faster than I have ever seen anything flying in the sky. It caught my eye because it was very bright and because it had a cylinder shape. It was moving fast, and the backdrop was a clear blue sky. This object was not a conventional aircraft, in other words, a plane. I happened to have my cell phone in my hand, and I took pictures of this object. The object was very far away from my position, and yet I could see this light clearly. When looking at the photo, please note there are 2 homes in the picture. Look at the home to the right, and you will see 2 vent pipes sticking out the top. The first pipe to your left, well, look straight up. Blow the picture up a little if you can, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This broadcaster indeed enlarged that photo as much as she could, and yep, there's a little something right to the side of that vent pipe. It's little, but it's there. Here's a little something from Louisville, Kentucky. MUFON case number 85658. The date of the sighting and the report date are the same, and that was August 5th, 2017. In summary, here's what's offered by our reporting witness. Something glowing, white, ascending rapidly, taking off and vanishing. And humming? The sighting specifics give a viewing distance unknown. The altitude was over 500 feet. Yep, there was cloud cover that night. The sighting duration was 2 minutes. The object features are unknown. The flight path was a straight line path, and this object is reported to have been diamond-shaped. Apparently, there was no weather impact.
What makes new Simply Summer's Eve feminine wash different? It's simple. Seriously, that's the answer. It's made with simple ingredients. Ingredients that help stop odor and help you maintain a naturally healthy pH, gently and effectively. Here's what Simply Summer's Eve ingredients do not include: harsh chemicals, dyes, alcohol, or parabens. And it comes in light, refreshing scents like mandarin blossom and coconut water. New Simply Summer's Eve Gentle Foaming Wash and Cleansing Cloths, gentle by nature. Click the tile to learn more.
Here, there isn't any reported. Here are the sighting details, however. Just minutes ago, I was pulling up to my house, which is located in a suburban neighborhood in southwest Louisville, Kentucky. I see what I first think is a bottle rocket or some kind of firework being shot into the sky. Before it briefly, I mean not a fraction of a second, before it ascended and vanished into the sky. I don't know for sure, but I believe something might have been stationed over my house. There was a glowing white object, and there was a faint hum sound. This took off so fast, in the blink of an eye. I saw it, then it was gone. And now I'm hearing helicopters in the air, but I can't see them. Please, if anyone has any information, contact me. There might be a way through UFOstalker.com to contact that witness, but the greatest, most direct route would be the comment or question section below every sighting at UFOstalker.com. Did you see this? Did you see something like it? Any little bit of info adds to the pile. Here's some info from Moab, Utah. MUFON issues tracking identification numbers. This one is 85650. The date of the sighting and the date submitted, same date, the 4th of August, 2017. Here's what the witness says in summary. Appeared to be playing with an F-16, disc-like, with lights. The viewing distance in this case was 101 to 500 feet. The altitude over 500 feet, no cloud cover. The sighting duration, 1 minute. Object features, unknown. Object flight path, straight line path. Object shape, as we heard, disc. Here's the short report. I was emptying trash, and I heard a very loud sound reverberating off the canyon. I looked up and saw a disc. And then I spotted an F-16 coming up on the disc. As the F-16 got closer, the disc made one movement, miles, very fast. At that point, the F-16 turned and headed towards it. Then I saw black helicopters trailing. They all then headed behind the canyon and out of my sight. This was very shocking, very fast. I couldn't believe nobody else in the neighboring areas heard it or saw it. I witnessed the same lights on the peak at the mountain at night 1 week ago. Well, what's going on over Moab, Utah? It sounds as if our witness has talked to others and he was the only witness. Well, we'll see what shows up in further reports down the line at UFOstalker.com. Let's go to Auburn, California, not too far away from Utah. It's where MUFON case number 85422 happened. This happened back in June, on the 21st of 2017. It didn't get reported till July 28th, 2017. Here's the summary. 2 bright lights hovered, dimmed, joined 3 more, took off northward. Viewing distance here doesn't apply, according to our witness. The altitude was 500 feet or less, and then ultimately over 500 feet. And at the time of this event, there wasn't any cloud cover over Auburn, California. The sighting duration, 3 minutes. But in spite of that time, the object features are just reported as none. Its flight path was hovering and then path, and this object had a star-like shape. It was hot. The maximum temperature 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius. The minimum temperature was 71 degrees Fahrenheit, 22 degrees Celsius. The visibility factors in this case were all the same, the standard 10 miles, 16 kilometers. Here's the account, first person, in the words of our witness. I was walking home with my partner from the store when I saw 2 very bright star-like objects, lights in the sky. Upon looking further, I noticed these lights were out of place compared to the constellations and the planets that we could see in the sky at the time. We continued to watch these objects. At first, we assumed that these were aircraft of some kind, but they didn't move. There was no body mass, as I could see other stars around the two bright points. Around 2 minutes later, we witnessed both bright lights fade. This took place over the course of only about 10 to 15 seconds. Once these objects faded to what we would say was the brightness of a satellite, we witnessed 3 more lights of that same brightness. They joined them out of nowhere. These lights swirled around, changed positions, and then very quickly, faster than any satellite we've ever watched, they took off northward. We watched them until they were too far away for us to see. Let's go to the state of Arizona, city of Sedona. MUFON case number 85533. The date of this sighting was the 26th of July, 2017. It was reported July 31st. Here's the summary. Capturing rainbow. Found object in the photo. No objects in frame before or after. Yep, there is a photo. You can find it later at ufoheadlinenews.com. Do your own analysis. Lots of unknowns in the sighting specifics. The viewing distance is unknown. The altitude is unknown. The sighting duration was 5 minutes. But the object features and the object's flight path, well, they're both unknown. But the object shape, that's known. It was disk. At the time of this event in Sedona, Arizona, the maximum temperature, rather cool for the desert, 87 degrees Fahrenheit, 31 degrees Celsius. Minimum temperature, 64 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 degrees Celsius. Standard visibility factors for the maximum, the mean, and the minimum, they all stood at 10 miles, 16 kilometers. At the time of this event, it's noted there was nothing abnormal about Sedona, Arizona's weather. Here's how it went. My husband and I were visiting Sedona for the week, and we were driving this day. He noticed the rainbow first. I just got my full-frame Nikon. I was really excited to capture this rainbow, so I took several pictures, aperture priority, and with continuous shots. We both never saw anything in the sky besides the rainbow. There weren't planes. There were no helicopters in the sky at the time. Later, when I got to our office today, I was looking through the photos and I noticed this object to the left of the rainbow. I really was trying to be a skeptic, although admittedly I am not, and looked at all of the frames. This was the only one with an object. Again, gentle listeners, great opportunity for you to sleuth this out, make your own decisions about it. Just find that link later at ufoheadlinenews.com. Well, we find that later is now for us. All those clocks on the wall, all the world time zones, they indicate that we gotta bounce because that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Inception Radio Network. Follow today's broadcast at ufoheadlinenews.com. Or iHeartRadio. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.